Ethan Hayes had spent most of his life among the stars. As a pilot for the Galactic Exploration Corps, he had flown through nebulae, skirted asteroid belts, and navigated planets no human had ever stepped foot on. His ship, the Horizon Runner, was a sleek silver craft built for speed and exploration, equipped with all the tools a lone pilot could need. Yet for all the adventures he had seen, nothing in his experience could have prepared him for the message that suddenly appeared on his console. It was not the usual distress signal or routine communication from command. The message shimmered, almost alive, a blend of human letters and alien glyphs that pulsed with soft blue light. Ethan blinked and leaned closer. Curiosity had always driven him, often to dangerous places, but he couldn't resist this mystery. After a moment's hesitation, he activated the translation module. The message read simply, "You are invited to witness the royal wedding of Lirathus. Your presence is requested as a guest." Ethan laughed softly. A wedding? In the middle of the Andromeda sector? And a royal one at that? He had seen many alien cultures during his travels, some friendly, some hostile, but he had never been invited to a ceremony like this. The idea was absurd yet enticing. He glanced at the star map and located Lirathus, a planet known for its floating cities and advanced technology, a place where art and science intertwined in ways humans could barely comprehend. Without a second thought, he set a course. The journey was smooth, the silence of space broken only by the hum of his ship. Ethan thought about what to expect. He imagined elegant ceremonies, beings with multiple limbs or strange features, rituals that he might never understand. And yet he felt a thrill of anticipation. A part of him hoped this would be something beyond ordinary diplomacy, an experience that would challenge his understanding of alien life. When the Horizon Runner entered Lirathus's orbit, Ethan was immediately struck by the planet's beauty. The cities floated above vast oceans, shimmering in the light of two suns. Towers twisted and curved in impossible angles, connected by bridges made of pure light. Flying vehicles moved gracefully between the structures, leaving trails of luminescent particles behind them. Ethan's eyes widened. He had seen impressive worlds before, but Lirathus seemed like something from a dream. The landing pad was vast, suspended high above the water, with glowing symbols guiding each craft into place. Ethan's ship descended slowly, and as the landing gear touched down, he noticed the Lyrathians waiting to greet him. They were tall and slender, their skin ranging from shades of soft violet to deep emerald. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, sparkling with intelligence and curiosity, and their movements were fluid, almost dance-like. A female Lyrathian approached him, her robes flowing with gentle elegance. She introduced herself as Ambassador Ryla, her voice melodious and warm. "Welcome, Ethan Hayes. The king has been informed of your arrival. You are honored as a special guest." Ethan inclined his head, a mix of surprise and modesty in his expression. "I didn't expect to be honored," he admitted. "I'm just a traveler." Ryla smiled. "The king values those who bring new perspectives. You have traveled far and seen much. That is worth honor in itself." He followed her through the grand corridors of the palace, marveling at the architecture. Walls shimmered with colors that shifted like living paint. Light seemed to bend and curve around the rooms, highlighting sculptures that moved subtly, almost as if breathing. Ethan felt a thrill of awe. This was not a palace merely of wealth or power. It was a testament to creativity and intellect. Guests were gathering in the central hall for the pre-wedding festivities. Ethan observed beings of every imaginable shape and size, some with wings, some with multiple arms, some that seemed to float without effort. Despite their alien appearances, he noticed one universal trait, a genuine joy and excitement in celebration. Music filled the hall, not played by instruments, but seemingly generated from the guests themselves, harmonizing in tones that resonated in Ethan's chest. As he mingled, Ethan accidentally stumbled into a display area where ancient Lyrathian artifacts were kept. One artifact, a puzzle of interlocking crystalline rings, immediately caught his attention. Its design was intricate, delicate, yet precise. Ethan had always enjoyed puzzles and problems, and without thinking, he began to manipulate the rings. Hours had passed, and the crowd had begun to notice. Guests murmured, intrigued by the human who dared to touch a centuries-old artifact. Then, with a final careful movement, Ethan solved it. The rings clicked into place, and the artifact emitted a soft, golden light. A hush fell over the crowd, followed by polite applause that grew louder as realization spread. This was a puzzle that Larathian scholars had attempted to solve for generations, without success, and here was a human unfamiliar with their traditions who had solved it in minutes. The king's advisors, a group of distinguished Lyrathians with eyes sharp as blades, approached Ethan, their expressions a mixture of surprise and approval. "You have done what none of us could," one said. "Your mind is remarkable." Before Ethan could respond, a new presence entered the room, commanding attention with grace and quiet authority. Princess Soraya, daughter of the king, moved forward. Her skin shimmered with a faint golden hue, and her eyes, a deep shade of violet, held intelligence and curiosity that seemed to pierce through Ethan's thoughts. "You solved the puzzle," she said softly, yet with clear confidence. "I have heard of your reputation among explorers, but this is beyond what I imagined." Ethan, caught off guard by her sudden appearance and striking presence, nodded politely. "It was challenging. I've always enjoyed a good problem." He smiled, trying to hide his nervousness. Soraya's lips curved into a small, amused smile. "I believe you may find more challenges here if you stay, and not all of them are in the form of puzzles." Her eyes twinkled with a hint of mystery, making Ethan feel both intrigued and slightly unsettled. Throughout the evening, Ethan found himself being pulled into conversations with scholars, artists, and inventors, each eager to understand the human who had so easily impressed the royal court. Yet it was Soraya who drew his attention the most. She asked questions not just about his travels, but about his ideas, his dreams, and his understanding of the universe. Ethan was fascinated by her intellect and the way she seemed to see beyond the surface of things, always probing deeper. The festivities were unlike anything Ethan had ever witnessed. Food and drink defied gravity, floating elegantly in mid-air before arriving perfectly at each guest. Music and light intertwined in patterns that shifted with the mood, responding to the guests' emotions. Ethan laughed more freely than he had in years, feeling a sense of belonging he did not expect to find on a foreign world. As the evening drew to a close, Ethan was escorted to a balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting hues of orange and purple across the floating towers. Soraya appeared beside him, her expression thoughtful. "You are far from home," she said quietly. "Yet you carry yourself as though this world is already familiar." "Do you feel at ease here?" Ethan considered the question. "I've been many places," he said. "But there's something about this world. Its people. It feels alive, not just in a way I understand, but in a way I want to understand." Soraya nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the sunset. "You may find more than you expect here. Lyrathis has a way of surprising those who truly observe it." As he returned to his quarters that night, Ethan could not shake the feeling that this visit, which had begun as a simple curiosity, might change his life in ways he could never have imagined. The royal wedding, the puzzles, the elegance, the music, they were just the beginning. Lyrathis was a world of possibilities, and somehow, Ethan had already found himself at the heart of its mysteries. He lay awake, staring at the softly glowing walls of his quarters, thinking of the princess, the artifacts, and the strange, almost magnetic energy of the city. A part of him wondered what tomorrow might bring, unaware that the path ahead would challenge everything he knew about adventure, courage, and even love. In the quiet of the night, as the twin moons rose above the floating towers, Ethan realized one truth. He had come as a guest to witness a wedding, but the threads of fate were already weaving a story far larger than he could imagine. And with that thought, sleep finally claimed him, carrying dreams of stars, puzzles, and a princess who might just change the course of his life forever. The morning after the grand arrival of Ethan Hayes, the palace of Lyrathis buzzed with energy. Guests from countless star systems were still arriving, each bringing unique gifts, knowledge, and stories of their worlds. Ethan found himself walking through halls lined with floating gardens and intricate mosaics that shimmered with the light of the rising suns. Every step he took revealed wonders that made him marvel. Yet despite all the spectacle, his thoughts kept returning to Princess Soraya. Soraya had requested to meet him for breakfast, a private meal in one of the palace's quieter courtyards. As he approached, he found her sitting on a levitating platform above a pond filled with glowing water lilies. Her golden-hued skin glistened in the sunlight, and her violet eyes carried the same curiosity that had drawn him in the night before. She greeted him with a soft smile. You are awake early, she said, her voice gentle yet carrying a subtle authority. Do humans rise this early? Or is it the excitement of alien weddings that pulls you from sleep? Ethan chuckled. I usually rise early, but I admit, I wasn't expecting a day filled with floating gardens and glowing flowers. It makes getting out of bed easier. Soraya laughed, the sound musical and light. Then perhaps you are ready for today's challenges. The city offers more than beauty. It offers lessons if one is willing to learn. As they sat together, the conversation flowed naturally. Ethan spoke of Earth, of its oceans, mountains, and the endless skies that humans had learned to explore. He told stories of the first voyages beyond the solar system, of the triumphs and failures that marked human progress. Soraya listened with rapt attention, asking questions that showed her deep understanding of science and strategy. You humans seem to value struggle and discovery above all else, she observed. It is fascinating. On Lyrathis, we seek perfection, balance, and elegance. Struggle is often minimized through preparation and design. Ethan leaned back, smiling. Perfection has its place, but sometimes struggle teaches more than preparation ever could. Failure is part of learning. Soraya nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is why you solved the artifact puzzle. You approach problems differently. Not with fear of failure, but with curiosity. That is a rare quality. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime. A messenger approached, bowing deeply. Princess Soraya, the council requests your presence. The king wishes to discuss ceremonial preparations for the wedding. Soraya stood gracefully. Thank you, Ethan. I will return shortly. She gave him a nod, and then with a fluid motion she floated away, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. As he wandered through the palace corridors, Ethan began to notice subtle tensions he hadn't seen the previous night. Whispers followed him. Some of the nobles and advisors observed him with suspicion, their expressions tight and calculating. Though they did not speak directly, their eyes conveyed disapproval. Ethan realized that being a human in the royal palace came with more than curiosity and admiration. It came with scrutiny. Later that afternoon, he was invited to join a group of scholars and inventors in the palace's Hall of Innovations. Here, Ethan learned about Lyrathis's advanced technologies, devices that could manipulate gravity, tools that healed wounds almost instantly, and energy systems that could power entire cities without pollution. The scholars were polite but measured in their praise, testing Ethan with questions and scenarios. He answered each with honesty and ingenuity, gaining their respect slowly but noticeably. Despite the admiration from scholars, the political tension lingered. Certain nobles were worried about the influence a human could have on the princess and the kingdom. They whispered about tradition, about the dangers of allowing an outsider to gain favor, and about the importance of the royal marriage in maintaining alliances. Ethan sensed their caution but did not feel threatened. He simply focused on learning, understanding, and showing respect. As evening approached, Soraya returned to him, carrying a small object in her hands, a delicate crystal orb that shimmered like liquid starlight. I thought you might enjoy this, she said. It is a puzzle of my own design, meant to teach patience and observation. Few have solved it. Ethan took the orb, carefully examining it. The crystal's surface shifted and changed as he touched it, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. He smiled. Another challenge? I cannot refuse. For hours, Ethan worked on the orb, twisting, turning, and observing the shifting patterns. Soraya watched quietly, sometimes offering subtle hints but never directly guiding him. As he focused, he noticed not only the complexity of the puzzle, but also the care with which it had been created. It was not meant to frustrate, but to teach, to encourage thought and creativity. Finally, with a precise motion, the last pattern clicked into place, and the orb opened slightly, revealing a small, softly glowing crystal inside. Soraya's eyes lit up with delight. You have done it, she said. You understand not just the mechanics, but the purpose behind the design. That is a rare quality. Ethan handed the orb back. It was not just a puzzle. It was a story. I think I understand why it was important, Soraya nodded. Yes. Understanding comes from observation, patience, and respect for the creator's intent. You show all three. That night, the palace gardens were illuminated with floating lanterns that drifted lazily in the warm air. Ethan and Soraya walked together along the glowing paths, the water beneath reflecting the lights like a mirror. Their conversation turned more personal. I must tell you something, Soraya said softly. The marriage arranged by my father is important for the kingdom. It is not meant to be about love. It is about alliances, strategy, and duty, yet I do not feel drawn to it, not in the way I wish to feel. Ethan looked at her, seeing the conflict in her expression. You should not be forced into something that does not feel right. Duty is important, but happiness matters too. Soraya smiled faintly. It is rare for someone to speak this way, to truly consider another's heart. Most only speak of duty or expectation. They walked in silence for a few moments, listening to the soft hum of the lanterns and the gentle ripple of water beneath. Ethan realized that this connection, unexpected and profound, was unlike anything he had experienced before. It was more than fascination with a new culture or admiration for intelligence. It was a recognition of kindred spirit, a bond forming between two beings from entirely different worlds. Yet, as the night deepened, Ethan became aware of the subtle dangers around him. Some nobles had begun plotting in secret, watching every move he made. They whispered to each other, questioning the king's decision to honor a human with so much attention. Ethan understood that his position was delicate. He could not rely on charm alone. He had to demonstrate wisdom, respect, and courage in ways that went beyond solving puzzles or impressing the princess. Over the next several days, Ethan engaged in various activities within the palace. He joined scientific demonstrations, participated in artistic ceremonies, and observed political councils, all while maintaining a sense of humility and genuine interest. Slowly, he began to gain not just the trust of Soraya, but also the respect of those who had initially doubted him. His human perspective, his willingness to learn, and his courage to speak honestly set him apart. Soraya, in turn, continued to seek him out. They spent hours walking through the palace libraries, where floating tomes held knowledge from across the galaxy, discussing philosophy, strategy, and dreams of exploration. They shared small moments of laughter, quiet observations, and mutual understanding. Through these conversations, a subtle bond grew stronger, one that neither could ignore. Ethan noticed the way Soraya's eyes lit up when she spoke about her own ideas, the way her hands moved gracefully as she explained concepts, and the warmth in her voice when she asked about his experiences on Earth. For his part, he shared stories of human resilience, their ability to adapt, and the joy they found in simple moments like watching a sunrise or hearing a child's laughter. Their friendship, grounded in curiosity and respect, began to shift. There were fleeting moments, glances held a little longer, smiles that lingered, laughter shared in secret, that hinted at something more than companionship. Neither spoke of it directly, but the connection was undeniable. Yet the political tension remained. Some nobles quietly tried to undermine him, questioning his motives and suggesting to Soraya that humans were unpredictable, even dangerous. Others debated with each other about what it meant for the kingdom if the princess chose to favor a foreigner over a carefully arranged alliance. Ethan could sense their disapproval, but he did not falter. He continued to act with honesty, humility, and courage, knowing that respect and integrity were stronger than fear and prejudice. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned shades of violet and gold, Ethan and Soraya stood once again on the balcony overlooking the floating city. The air was filled with the soft glow of lights, the gentle hum of distant machinery, and the quiet whispers of citizens below. You have adapted well, Soraya said. You have not only learned about our culture, but you have found your place within it. That is no small feat for someone from another world. Ethan smiled, looking at the vibrant city below. I've learned more than I ever imagined I could, and I think I understand why people value. Soraya's eyes met his, and for a moment, words were unnecessary. The bond between. The morning of the royal wedding arrived with an air of excitement and tension. The palace of Lerathis sparkled under the light of the twin suns, each tower gleaming with iridescent reflections. Floating banners shimmered in colors that shifted with the breeze, and crowds of citizens gathered in anticipation, eager to witness the historic ceremony. Ethan Hayes stood in the grand hall, dressed in a ceremonial robe provided by the palace, a garment that seemed to float around him, infused with subtle energy. Even as he marveled at the elegance around him, a faint sense of unease tugged at his mind. Soraya appeared at his side, radiant and poised, her golden-hued skin glowing softly in the sunlight. Her violet eyes met his, filled with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Ethan," she said quietly, "today will be remembered for generations. We must tread carefully. The palace has been uneasy lately. Not everyone welcomes your presence." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I understand," he replied. "I'm not just a guest today. I need to prove my intentions, my respect for your people." The ceremony began with a procession of dignitaries, their robes and symbols glowing with elegance. Music unlike anything Ethan had ever heard filled the air, created by resonant harmonics that seemed to vibrate through the entire city. The citizens watched with awe as the royal family prepared for the grand wedding, unaware that a shadow of danger had begun to creep into the palace. In the midst of the festivities, a sudden alarm sounded. The palace lights flickered and the soft hum of energy shifted into a low warning resonance. Panic rippled through the crowd as palace security units moved to intercept the threat. Ethan's heart raced. This was no minor disturbance. Something or someone was attempting to disrupt the wedding. Soraya's expression tightened. "The rogue faction," she whispered. "They have waited for this moment to strike, hoping to seize power while attention is elsewhere." Ethan instinctively moved closer to her side. "What can I do to help?" he asked. He had faced dangerous situations before, but nothing like this, with political stakes and an entire kingdom at risk. Soraya gestured toward a series of control panels that hovered in the air, linked to the palace's defensive systems. "Use the controls to redirect energy shields and protect the citizens. But be careful, this faction is clever. They know our defenses well." Without hesitation, Ethan approached the panels, his fingers dancing over the controls. His training and experience with advanced technology allowed him to understand the alien systems quickly. He activated shields around the most vulnerable areas, rerouted power to defensive grids, and coordinated the palace security units. Despite the complexity of the systems, his actions were precise and deliberate, each choice saving lives and protecting the royal family. The rogue faction appeared as a group of armed individuals, their forms a mixture of familiar Lyrathians and outsiders who had infiltrated the palace. They moved with intent, attempting to breach the central chamber where the ceremony was to take place. Ethan noticed their strategy and quickly adjusted the energy barriers, blocking access while guiding civilians to safe zones. Soraya joined him, her presence calm and commanding. Together, they directed palace forces with efficiency and courage. Ethan could see the admiration in the eyes of the citizens, who watched a human and a princess working seamlessly to protect them. This display of bravery strengthened his bond with Soraya and earned the respect of those who had doubted him. As the battle continued, Ethan and Soraya found themselves facing the leader of the rogue faction, a formidable figure with advanced weaponry and a commanding presence. The intruder sneered, clearly underestimating Ethan's capabilities. "A human," he spat. "You have no place here. Step aside or be destroyed." Ethan squared his shoulders, feeling a surge of determination. "I'm not just a guest. I'm here to protect this kingdom just as you would protect yours. If you think fear will drive me away, you're mistaken." With a coordinated effort, Ethan and Soraya used the palace's systems to neutralize the faction's weapons and cut off their escape routes. The rogue leader, frustrated and cornered, attempted one final attack. Ethan anticipated it, using his agility and quick thinking to disarm the intruder and prevent any harm to Soraya or the civilians. Within moments, the faction was captured, and order was restored. The citizens erupted into cheers, not only for the protection of their royal family, but also for the courage and ingenuity displayed by the human who had arrived as a mere guest. Ethan felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had faced danger, navigated alien technology, and worked alongside Soraya to safeguard a kingdom. And through it all, the bond between them had grown stronger, forged in the heat of action and mutual respect. Later, in the quiet of the palace balcony, Ethan and Soraya stood side by side, looking out over the floating city. The twin suns had set, leaving the city bathed in the gentle glow of lanterns and bioluminescent gardens. Soraya's hand brushed lightly against Ethan's, a silent acknowledgement of the trust and connection they shared. "You have proven yourself today," she said softly, "not only to me but to the kingdom. Your actions speak louder than words ever could." Ethan shook his head slightly. "It wasn't just me. We worked together. I couldn't have done it without you guiding the defense, keeping everyone calm." Soraya smiled, a subtle warmth in her gaze. Perhaps, but your courage, your quick thinking, and your willingness to act without hesitation, those qualities are rare even among Lyrathians. You have changed the way many see our world. In the following hours, the wedding ceremony resumed with renewed grandeur. The citizens celebrated not only the union that was to take place, but also the bravery of the human who had become a part of their story. Ethan watched as Soraya moved through the crowd, receiving admiration and smiles, and felt a deep sense of pride, not for himself, but for the bond that had formed between them. When the king finally approached, his expression serious yet thoughtful, Ethan felt a moment of tension. He had earned respect from scholars and citizens alike, but the king's approval was crucial. The ruler regarded Ethan carefully, his eyes reflecting both wisdom and a lifetime of experience. You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and respect for this kingdom, the king said. Your actions today have shown that you are more than a guest. You have proven yourself worthy of trust. Ethan bowed respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored to serve and protect your people. The king's gaze shifted to Soraya, who stepped forward with quiet confidence. Father, she said, I choose my own path. I choose a companion not for duty alone, but for shared understanding, respect, and partnership. The court fell silent. Ethan felt his heart pound, unsure if he had understood correctly. Soraya continued, I wish to unite with Ethan Hayes, not only as a human and a Lyrathian, but as equals, partners who will face the future together. The king studied her for a long moment, weighing tradition against the wisdom and courage displayed by both Ethan and his daughter. Finally, he nodded. Very well. Let it be known that the princess has chosen her companion. Ethan Hayes, you shall stand beside my daughter, not as a guest, but as an equal. A wave of relief and joy washed over Ethan. The tension that had built over days, the subtle unease among the nobles, the fear of being an outsider, all of it melted away in that single moment. He stepped forward, taking Soraya's hand with care and respect, feeling the warmth and strength of her presence. As the ceremony continued, Ethan and Soraya moved through the rituals together. They exchanged vows that spoke not only of commitment, but also of unity, respect, and shared adventure. The citizens cheered, witnessing a union that symbolized courage, love, and the possibility of bridging worlds. Throughout the celebrations, Ethan remained aware of the delicate balance between tradition and change. His actions had earned him respect, but it was the bond with Soraya, their shared understanding and mutual admiration, that truly secured his place in the kingdom. By the time the night settled over Lyrathis, the floating city was alive with light, music, and laughter. Ethan and Soraya stood together on a balcony overlooking the city, the twin moons casting silver reflections on the water below. He marveled at the journey that had brought him here, from a curious guest arriving for a wedding to a companion standing beside a princess, respected and trusted. This city, this world, it's more incredible than I imagined, Ethan said quietly, and I didn't just witness it. I became a part of it. Soraya smiled, her eyes reflecting both pride and affection. And you have changed it in turn. You have shown that courage, honesty, and curiosity are qualities that transcend worlds. You have taught us to see beyond tradition, to embrace the possibility of something greater. Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the bond he and Soraya shared was more than fleeting admiration. It was built on trust, shared experience, and the courage to face challenges together. As he looked out over the shimmering city, he realized that this was only the beginning of their partnership, of their adventures, and of a future that held limitless possibilities. The palace lights dimmed and the city settled into a peaceful glow. But Ethan knew that Lyrathis, with all its beauty, intrigue, and complexity, had already left an indelible mark on him. And as he stood beside Soraya, the day following the dramatic events of the attempted palace attack dawned bright and serene. Lyrathis seemed almost to sparkle in celebration, as though the twin suns themselves were casting a special light over the city. Citizens gathered in the floating plazas, eager to witness the royal wedding, which had now become more than a ceremony. It was a symbol of unity, courage, and hope. Ethan Hayes awoke with a sense of anticipation he had never experienced before, knowing that the choice Soraya had made would not only affect their lives but also the future of an entire kingdom. He dressed carefully in the ceremonial attire given to him by the palace, silken robes that shimmered with iridescent patterns, designed to honor Lyrathian tradition while subtly acknowledging his human identity. Every movement he made felt both foreign and yet natural, the garment seeming to respond to his presence as though it had a life of its own. As he walked through the palace corridors, he could hear the soft hum of activity, the excitement of staff preparing for the grand celebration, and the distant murmur of citizens gathering below. Soraya appeared at the entrance to his quarters, radiant in a flowing gown that seemed to capture the colors of the morning sky. Her hair, glinting with threads of metallic gold, framed her face perfectly. Her violet eyes met Ethan's, filled with a mixture of joy, pride, and an unspoken promise of shared adventure. She extended her hand to him. "Are you ready for today?" she asked, her voice calm but tinged with excitement. Ethan took her hand gently. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, a smile breaking across his face. "I think I've learned more about courage, honor, and responsibility than I ever expected in the past few days." The ceremony began in the central hall of the palace, a magnificent structure suspended high above the glowing waters of the planet. Floating lanterns drifted lazily, casting soft reflections across the polished surfaces. The music was both alien and familiar, created from a mixture of resonating crystals and harmonic frequencies, and it filled the air with a sense of timeless wonder. Guests from countless worlds were present, and their excitement was palpable. They had witnessed the courage Ethan had shown, and now waited to see the union that symbolized so much more than a personal choice. It represented trust, unity, and the blending of worlds. The king, dressed in robes of deep violet and gold, entered the hall first, his expression composed yet warm. He moved to a position of honor, overseeing the proceedings. Beside him, the queen's presence radiated calm and strength, silently acknowledging the bravery Ethan had displayed during the recent crisis. Soraya approached, her movements graceful and deliberate, and Ethan followed, feeling a profound sense of purpose and responsibility. As the ceremony commenced, Soraya and Ethan exchanged vows, not just as partners in life but as allies in vision and understanding. Their words were simple yet profound, promising respect, honesty, and shared guidance for the future of the kingdom. The citizens watched, their admiration growing with every statement, recognizing that this was not a conventional royal union, but a partnership built on courage, intelligence, and mutual trust. "You have chosen well," the king said finally, his voice carrying authority and warmth. "This union is a testament to courage, wisdom, and respect. Ethan Hayes, you are no longer merely a guest. You are a partner in guiding the future of Lyrathis." Ethan bowed respectfully, feeling the weight and honor of the moment. "I will serve this kingdom with loyalty and care," he replied. "And I will stand beside Princess Soraya as an equal, in all things that matter to her and to this people." The ceremony concluded with the joining of hands, and a gentle wave of light washed over the hall, a Lyrathian blessing signifying unity and protection. Guests cheered, and even those nobles who had previously doubted Ethan's presence found themselves caught in the wave of admiration and awe. For them, it was no longer just a wedding, it was a story of courage, choice, and the possibility of change. The celebrations moved to the grand courtyard, where food and drink floated gracefully above the tables, arriving precisely where each guest could enjoy them. Lyrathian delicacies sparkled in colors Ethan had never seen, and the taste was as exquisite as the presentation. Music and laughter intertwined in patterns that shifted with emotion, and Ethan found himself swept up in the joy of the crowd. He walked alongside Soraya, observing the wonder on the faces of citizens and visitors alike. Their shared smiles reflected a bond that had been tested and strengthened in ways that no ordinary courtship could have achieved. Throughout the celebration, Ethan engaged with Lyrathians and aliens from other systems, learning about their lives, sharing stories from Earth, and exchanging ideas about exploration, science, and culture. He realized that his presence here was no longer that of an outsider. It was a bridge. Humans and Lyrathians, through this union, could share knowledge, resources, and understanding in ways that would benefit both worlds. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the floating city, Ethan and Soraya retreated to a quieter terrace overlooking the palace gardens. The glowing water lilies reflected the colors of the sky, and soft bioluminescent lights highlighted the paths below. For a moment the world felt still, as if pausing to acknowledge the significance of the day. "I never imagined this would happen," Ethan said softly, taking Soraya's hand. "I came here as a guest curious about a wedding, and now I'm part of something much larger than myself." Soraya squeezed his hand gently. "And I never imagined I would find someone who could see my world with fresh eyes yet respect it deeply. Someone who could challenge me, inspire me, and still walk beside me as an equal." She paused, her gaze steady. "Ethan, we have a chance to build something new, something that honors both our worlds." "That is rare and precious," Ethan nodded. "We'll face challenges, I know that. But together I think we can do more than anyone imagined, and maybe even show the galaxy that unity is stronger than fear or tradition." They stood quietly, watching the city below, the glowing towers shimmering in the twilight. Citizens danced along the floating bridges. Children laughed as they chased illuminated creatures that flitted through the air, and the palace itself seemed to hum with a peaceful energy. For Ethan, the moment was profound, not just because of what he had achieved, but because of the journey that had led him here. Later, the festivities continued with displays of skill, music, and art. Lyrathian dancers moved through the air with elegance and grace, their forms weaving patterns of light. Ethan found himself amazed not only by their abilities, but also by the warmth and openness of the people. Even those who had initially doubted him now approached with smiles, offering congratulations and gestures of friendship. As the night deepened, Soraya and Ethan were led to the palace's highest tower, a place reserved for reflection and quiet moments after such grand events. From this vantage, the entire floating city stretched out before them, illuminated by countless lights, and the twin moons reflected their glow upon the waters below. Ethan felt a sense of peace he had never known, a deep connection not just to Soraya but to the world itself. "You have changed my life," Soraya said softly, "and perhaps in some small way you have changed Lerathis too. The people see what is possible when one dares to step beyond fear and expectation." Ethan smiled. "And you've changed mine. I came here seeking adventure, curiosity, and perhaps a story to tell. What I found was far greater, a chance to belong, to share, and to build something lasting." For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly at home. Not on Earth, not in the endless expanse of space, but here, on a world that had embraced him, and beside a princess who saw him not as an outsider, but as a partner. Their bond had been tested, forged in challenge and courage, and now it stood unshakable. In the days that followed, Ethan began his new role in the royal court, advising on interstellar matters, sharing knowledge from Earth, and helping the kingdom prepare for a future that embraced diversity and exploration. Soraya, as both princess and partner, guided him with wisdom and care, and together, they envisioned a kingdom where different worlds could learn from one another, fostering cooperation and understanding. The citizens of Lerathis watched with hope and admiration as the human and the princess worked together. Their story spread across the kingdom, inspiring others to value courage, honesty, and collaboration over fear and tradition. In every conversation, in every gathering, their partnership became a symbol of unity, bridging worlds that had once been distant and separate. As Ethan gazed out over the glowing towers of the city one evening, he reflected on how a simple curiosity, a desire to witness an alien wedding, had led him to a destiny he could never have imagined. He had come seeking adventure and found love, respect, and a purpose that spanned not just a single planet, but the potential for harmony between worlds. Beside him, Soraya watched the horizon, her hand resting lightly on his. "Are you ready for what comes next?" she asked, a playful yet confident glint in her eyes. The twin moons rose higher in the sky, casting silver reflections across the floating city, and the people of Lerathis celebrated late into the night, their laughter, music, and light blending into a tapestry of hope and joy. Ethan realized